Surprisingly, there were no leaks today. None at all. I hate those types of days, really. There might be some tomorrow, but I looked up all of the new ones. There was nothing new, and there was nothing new last night, so yep, besides that, of course, that one Event Hubs video, which I hope gets at least 100 views because of course the date passed. Of course, the Tale weeks are going to come back, you know, because the anticipation for next week's Tale is going to come out, and there's going to be another next week. But they're about Sherlock gnomes. So this is a sequel that nobody knows about. It is the sequel to, of course, Romeo and Juliet, which came out in 2011. When it was a very successful movie, and it was kind of hated by a lot of people despite being made by Disney. Yep, Disney was behind this movie. And I liked watching it when I was a kid, so I have a bit of nostalgia for this movie. V. I always thought it was pretty funny. I always liked the fight scene at the end of the movie because I thought it was funny and stuff. But the people apparently didn't like it that much. But they made a sequel. Is the sequel as bad as it was, or is it good or bad? Well, the movie was not really a success. It had a bigger budget than the first movie, and it only made $90 million at the box office. Despite mostly being like the same movie from like the first. And the difference from this movie is it was not made by Disney. It was made by Paramount Studios, a whole different company. Apparently, Disney just didn't like the first movie that much, so they just threw it to, of course, the second movie. So they just threw it towards, of course, Paramount, which was why? Why Paramount? And Paramount is basically the graveyard of franchises. Let's look at how, if, for example, like if they didn't change Sonic. Yep, it would have been like that. And look at how the state of G.I. Joe and Transformers now. Basically, Paramount is the Tom Cruise company. Because that's the only thing that makes money by Paramount now. But Sherlock Gnomes was not this horrible abomination like people make it out to be. The story was at least decent. And compared to some of the movies I have seen, the story was at least decent and it was not horrible. People complain about the humor, but I didn't really care for it. This movie's all just in the middle. Not good or not bad. There are some bad parts of the movie, but overall this movie was pretty alright. It was just to me just an unnecessary sequel, and it introduced the franchise to the detective era. I think if they make a full movie, this is just shift it back to Disney and just put it on Disney Plus or Paramount Plus. I don't think a theoretical option is really on the cards if they make a second movie for a movie because nobody watched the second movie to begin with. Because nobody knew there was a second movie, and not many people really liked the first movie to begin with. It is basically what I call the Suicide Squad problem. Why do I call it the Suicide Squad problem now? It is because it is the same problem as the Suicide Squad. That's because the first movie makes money doesn't mean the second movie is going to be a success. You can't get right in the bottle twice. And DC might learn the lesson with the Suicide Squad. Again, who knows how much money it made on HBO Max, but it likely made a decent amount of money despite being free. And I think with this movie, it's not. It's the sequel to a movie that people don't like. Yes, it did make a lot of money. $90 million off of $59 million budget is a lot. But it's still a flop movie. And, you know, and usually its sequels make half of the original, which this one did. So, yep, this is another flop, essentially. This franchise is over, unless they make, Paramount Plus version or Disney Plus version. I think the only way this franchise will survive is, of course, if they put it on a streaming service. Because I don't think people will really care if it's on a streaming service. it's probably not gonna go to the feeders because of course, if it's on a streaming service, they don't really care about they only care about how much people view it on streaming. For example, movies like Tomorrow War, you know, it technically didn't really make any money, but a lot of people watched it on Amazon Prime. So it's technically was a success of making people stay on Amazon Prime for future months. So technically the Tomorrow War did its job of keeping Amazon Prime from dying. So, yep. So Sherlock Gnomes is not a bad or good movie. It just was meh. It is not the worst animated movie in the world. It is not the best. And I think that's its problem. It isn't this amazing movie. It's just mediocre at the most. Some people act like it is this horrible pile of garbage, but to me, it's just another mediocre movie. There are definitely much better animated movies to make it kids watch, but it's still good because I think kids can be easily be entertained by this movie. Kids can and younger audiences will definitely love this movie. There are a couple parts that were actually pretty funny. Like at the end of the movie, everybody got off and was saved except for the guy in the toilet. That was actually pretty funny. But most of the jokes were just not that great. Again, jokes sometimes are just not that funny. Sometimes they're genius. For example, I'm gonna compare this movie to another movie I've recently seen, The Boss Baby Family Business. The whole horse scene was a genius scene. It was funny and hilarious. Yes, not many of the other jokes in this movie were not that funny, but the horse scene was just a genius, funny scene. But this movie had at least one good funny scene. And yeah, there you go about Sherlock Gnomes. This movie wasn't really about the comedy. It was really more about the mystery aspects. But if you really want to watch a Sherlock Holmes movie, just watch the Robert Downey Jr. ones instead. But if you just want your kids to just watch something, and you just don't want to watch it, this is a good movie for that type of people. Because I know kids will probably easily like this movie, and people who have younger mindsets will easily like this movie. But people who are more critical of movies, I can understand why this movie has a 5.2 on IMDb. So that's basically it. Goodbye.